90.7 KPFK, Los Angeles.
IMRU presents Unzipped with Carrie Harrison, exploring the complexity of human desire, where intimacy means insight, uncovering the truth about sex and relationships, delving into the science of seduction, your sex, your stories, and everything in between. This is Unzipped. Ow! With Carrie Harrison.
And it is Unzipped. Carrie Harrison with you, your new best friend. Welcome. I always enjoy spending time with you on Fridays here on this public radio station, of course, in replay on various different stations, wherever you may be. But happy tonight to be able to talk about the human condition. We often talk about geopolitics. I mean, it may not be the most exciting thing, but it's everything to everyone. And then there's us. What's left that's worth living for? And that's kind of what we explore here, reasons to suit up and show up. We're going to be opening the phones, of course, tonight because your feedback, your experience, your opinion is critical here in evaluating what we're going to be talking about next. We're also live streaming right now on Substack and YouTube. You can simply Google Carrie Harrison, Carrie like Cary Grant, Carrie Harrison Substack or Carrie Harrison YouTube, and that way we can stay connected when you arrive at your destination. You can easily find us live at kpfk.net, kpfk.net. And don't forget, Netanyahu, no, and don't forget, it sounds like I said that, didn't it? And yet, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at carrieharrison.com, and there you're going to get a transcript of this entire show. So when you hear stuff, you hear callers, you thought they said this, yes, you can read it. Plus, we'll be making clips of those and putting them on our weekly newsletter. So you're going to get really carved up, curated pieces of all of that. We're going to have a little fun here straight ahead. By the way, I want to give a nod to the great Steve Pride. He's been executive producer of IMRU, and we are helping out here by doing Unzipped. And we're going to be featuring, at least this is the hope, 3-minute segments of IMRU, which is the longest LGBT radio show in America, possibly the world. We have archives that go back to the 1970s, maybe even earlier. And we're going to be featuring some very cool stuff that we're going to be doing during the breaks, just to give you a sense of history and import. So I'm looking forward to getting those things inserted, as we say, radio language, not a double meaning, not. All right. Before we say hi to Flash, a world traveler who studies the arts of communication and information, and bring in also Renee Yawarski, daughter of Simone, who is also she is a Rhodes Scholar. Let's just say that. Whatever it is, she knows about it. Tonight, we're going to talk about the decline and fall of the American everything. And today, we're going to plunge snout first into a headline so perfectly absurd, so magnificently bleak, it could only come from the annals of a dying empire. Or annals, if you're Queen Elizabeth. Annus horribilis. Yes. Women, here it is, quote, women would rather encounter a bear in the woods than a man. Okay, think about that. If you're a man, you're like, what? What? Why on earth would that be? Well, we're going to be clear. This is not satire. This is science, or at least the mangled remains of a survey bobbing in the septic tank of the internet. Yeah, when asked to choose between the fanged 600-pound personification of death and Chad from the hiking trail, a statistically non-trivial number of women are saying, give me the apex predator. Why? Well, bears, you see, don't ask if you're reading Jordan Peterson. They don't circle back after ghosting for 6 weeks. And most importantly, bears don't podcast. Now, I hear some of you sharpening your keyboards, but not all men are terrifying in the woods. Well, that's true, but let's not get lost in the foliage here. And there will be a distinction between, say, straight men and gay men and incels and all the other variants we find here in the land of e pluribus unum. The problem isn't any one man, it's the vibe, the ambiance of threat, cultivated over centuries, and now wearing Oakleys and carrying protein powder in the same bag as their concealed carry. You got to admit, We've reached a special kind of low when the average American male has been outcompeted in sheer approachability by a carnivorous quadruped with a known tendency to maul. It's not just a failure of image, it's a failure of evolution. Women aren't swiping left, they're running full speed into bear country with peanut butter in their pockets like it's a safer bet. So let's zoom out. This isn't just about dating, it's about trust. Public trust in men as civic companions, as co-workers, men as fellow bus riders. And that trust, my friends, is in free fall in the United States, not in France, not in Italy, not in Spain, not in Switzerland, not in Norway, in the United States, not in Mexico, not in Canada, in the United States, like Blockbuster Video or Democracy in free fall in the United States. So blame what you want, incels. We'll get into that a little bit. Renee is somewhat expert among everything else on that. Blame it on Andrew Tate. Blame it on the algorithm that turns disaffected teenagers into pocket-sized Mussolinis. But the result is the same. An entire gender association now synonymous with menace. And that's not a PR crisis. That's a civilization-level whoopsie. And here's where the dystopia creeps in on little cat feet. Because the same culture that shuns men in the woods celebrates them online, where the worst of them monetize grievance, weaponize loneliness, and pitch dating courses with the psychological complexity of a sledgehammer. We're living in a time when how to talk to women is now a course. It's an industry, as if basic empathy was some kind of lost martial art. Meanwhile, big tech watches the show from above, monetizing the collapse. Every swipe, every rejection, every paranoid tweet is just another data point in the great machine learning model of the American apocalypse. Women afraid of men? Fantastic. That's clickbait. Men angry about women being afraid of them? Even better. That's engagement. And bears? Bears don't use Instagram, which makes them the most trustworthy creatures in the woods. Bears are also something else. And I know Flash, a minute before we started the show, asked, bears? Another thing? Oh, yeah, baby. We'll get into what bears are also. But just the bears, the Orsine version that we're talking about right now, because they don't use Instagram, they're definitely more trustworthy in the woods. You see, in the eyes of our algorithmic overlords, there's no such thing as dystopia, only data. I've said this over and over again. I think we flesh it out more and more each time, so it becomes more and more understandable. And right now, the data says we trust wild animals more than each other, which frankly sounds about right. If you've ever had a dog, nothing more needs to be said. If you've had a cat, well, maybe 50%. So next time you're out on a hike and you spot something large, something hairy, something vaguely dangerous in the distance, don't panic. Just ask yourself, is that a grizzly or just a man with a podcast? Either way, don't make eye contact. And for God's sake, don't feed them. Let's bring in Flash. Flash, the greatest co-hostess who ever lived, a radio maven, also a world traveler who studies the arts of communication and information. Flash, always a treat to hear the music of your voice.
Well, thank you so much.
And we're also going to bring in Renee, daughter of Simone, the Rhodes Scholar. We'll bring her in just a second. She likes to fuss a little in the background first. But Flash, let's jump into this. I had not become aware of this until you mentioned it to me, you and Renee, maybe a week ago, about men versus bears. And to me, like, nobody wants to be in a cage with a grizzly bear, except maybe it's preferable on some level.
Well, first of all, the study does say with a man you don't know or a bear you don't know. So it depends, I think, on, I mean, that's how American women are perceiving men. I mean, if it was Hugh Jackman, I think we would have an easy choice here. Not if the bear was named Hugh Jackman, but, you know, the actor. But it is men you don't know, and yeah, it's a strange phenomenon that this is what's going on, and women are, I think, legitimately, to some extent, afraid of men, and sometimes some men, I don't wanna, use the broad stroke here. There are
Yeah.
wonderful men in the world. I know some of them. They're really, really great. You know some of them.
I know some of them.
I do, but they're my friends. And I've met a few online. It's just that the level of where we're going right now is very much women washing their hands of, certainly if you're single and dating, of the situations online and of all the games that are being played. And I'm not saying women don't play them either, but it is something when we're talking about a bear who might or might not kill you and a man who's going to want you to listen to his Spotify list and probably listens to Joe Rogan. It is frightening, and it is every reason to run.
Okay, let's explain, because we have people in Europe right now, in Switzerland, in the northern parts of Europe, probably the southern parts as well, along with the United States. Like, we get it. This is our language. This is our vibe. But we say Joe Rogan, they're not going to necessarily know what that means.
Well, God
You know what
bless
that
them
means,
and
Flash.
safekeeping, and don't learn any more. Just live your life and be free and happy, and you don't wanna know. It's very, you know who we're talking about, right, Carrie? I mean, do you want to explain that, or do you just wanna let people, have
They
some
they
joy
won't
left
they
in the
won't
world?
be able to intuit it, because their broadcasting rules are different in different countries. So they have
Mm,
publicly funded media. We support, or we rely on listener support, and
mhm.
thank God for our beautiful, beautiful listeners that we can do this. But in other countries, it's just built into the infrastructure. It's part of your tax basis. You don't look twice. You don't get ultra right wing or ultra fringe anything on the air, because it is for the public benefit. In this country, we deregulated that when we got rid of the fairness doctrine in the late 1980s into the early 1990s. The fairness doctrine was great. We'd had it for 50, 60 years. And in America, it said that if you were going to have a Ku Klux Klan rally on the radio, you had to have a not Ku Klux Klan rally on the radio equal time. So if you had 4 hours of Limbaugh when he first started,
Mhm.
we had 4 hours of anything but Limbaugh, typically the diametric opposite politically. And it balanced it out. The ratings were high. People loved to listen. They loved to call in. It was a great idea. And then Newt Gingrich and a very large conservative wave pulled in under George Bush the first, and they were able to get rid of, and Bill Clinton, interestingly enough, or ironically enough, nailed the last or put the last nail into the coffin on the fairness doctrine. It all went away. And then suddenly radio stations known as Clear Channel back then, today known as iHeart, there's Cumulus, there's Salem, bought up all the radio stations. So basically you could have one guy on 900 stations 40 times a day. And when people are listening, that's all they get. They can't have broccoli with, cruciferous vegetables and maybe some light strained peas. No, it's going to be meat, and more meat. And pretty
Wait, could
soon that's, yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't mean to disrail, but speaking of meat, 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 and more meat, did you hear about the white supremacist rally that happened over the weekend? Huge white supremacist rally. They had their faces covered and they were all wearing khakis. Isn't that the sign of the apocalypse?
Well,
Who
I
came
have
up
some,
with the outfits?
I
Much less the crazy.
I can't
Yes.
speak to that. I can say I own khakis. They're very comfortable. And there's really
No.
nothing inherently wrong with khakis if you wear a blue blazer.
Yeah, no, they wore white shirts, I believe, and
Yeah.
khakis.
But if you're a
And
white supremacist hiding your face because you're so proud of who you are that you don't dare
right.
anyone see you, yeah, this is crazy. So I'm glad that we're kind of bringing everyone up into the American thing, because when you talk to people who are not from here, Flash, they're always asking you, so tell us, how did this happen? How is this working? And
Mhm.
it's tough because they're not from this culture, and you can't say, well, you just purchased the White House. It's now
Right.
300 million. That's the new price. It was 60 million 5 years ago. It's now up to 300 million. You just pay for it. There, it's done.
Well, they
But
did some upgrades. They redid the kitchen and, painted. So
yes, they did. And Nancy Reagan, of course, had replaced many of the lovely china. So
yes.
there were lots of upgrades, things to look
Mhm.
forward to, especially if you work there.
Yeah. Yeah. But should we talk about the bears with Renee? Renee, did you wanna jump in on this?
Let's definitely do that.
Yeah.
And let me throw out the phone numbers too before Renee jumps in. So we
Okay.
want to get your thought. I gave a very long, a volupte and exquisite, gorgeously detailed examination of the thinking of why women would prefer to be in the woods with a wild bear rather than a man they don't know in this country. You're a man. Maybe you think that's insane. It's outrageous. What women would say that? What woman could even think that? If that's where you think, we would love to hear your voice at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Those are your Harrison hotlines. If you're a woman, you may relate to that. Like, I don't feel safe with men. I get in an elevator and I clutch my purse and I lean into the corner and I'm like hyper vigilant. Like, what is this guy going to do? He's sweating. He's got a long beard. I mean, it's ISIS on steroids. I don't know. But we all have these experiences, which is why this has not only become a thing, but it was on The View, according to Flash. It was on the View, right? This topic.
That was Renee.
So Renee, let's jump right on into it.
Yeah.
When
when
it's on The View.
Yeah, and no, it actually was on The View. I think it was like a 4-minute segment. So if anyone wants to look at that, it's on YouTube and you can check it out. Everybody's been talking about it. So if you just go to Google or any of your AI sort of chatbots, Chat GPT, and you just type in man versus bear, you're going to see professors have now started doing research about it. There's all these articles, there's TikToks about it. And it's one of these cool phenomenons because remember when they'll have remember there was a dress and like half of the population saw it as like black and purple or something, and the other half saw it as like green and yellow, or I'm getting those
I think it
colors
was
wrong.
blue or gold.
Blue or
Did you see
gold,
blue or
yeah.
gold? Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, and never the twain shall meet. Like, we could not figure out why the other half of people could not see it that way. This is kind of what was going on with gender, where I think this all started probably on TikTok, where someone just sort of said, well, ladies, would you rather be in the forest alone with a bear or a man? And women were overwhelmingly saying, well, yeah, I mean, a bear, I'll take my chances with the bear. And the reason why it kind of went viral and has snowballed is because so many men were flummoxed and shocked and said, I don't understand. And so that's when it became a real issue, because I think a lot of women live a daily life where if you have to jog at night, or you have to go to your car in a parking garage at night, or if you're alone in an elevator, women just know you're kind of scared. You have your keys out. You're thinking of what can go on. Women comedians do bits about this. And I think women can forget that men don't really understand that. Like, I'll have men say to me all the time, oh, you should go jogging at 4 a.m. It's like so beautiful. Oh, wait, you can't. After I mention it or after I look shocked, like, I can't do that. I don't get to, if I were to do that, I mean, I can do it, but then I might end up on the news the next day.
And if you did, someone would say, well, why was she out jogging by herself at 4 a.m.? Whereas they would never say that to a male.
Right. In the mini skirt. Why was she wearing an attractive
Well,
set
I'd
of
wonder why you
clothing?
were wearing a mini skirt to jog, but
For sure. Because probably it allows
heels were beautiful.
the thighs to sweep gracefully in the 3 a.m. Moonlight. But, men love to blame women. Oh, the reason I won't even say the word, the reason I did it is because she dressed that way and I couldn't help myself. My hypothalamus is the size of a pin needle. I have no executive functioning whatsoever when I see legs or, a braless shirt. And I go into this limbic rage and I start walking on my knuckles and snarling. And
but are these the same men that say we can't have a female president because she'd be too emotional and wouldn't be able to control her thoughts?
See, there's both sides. But this seems to be happening uniquely on our shores. The Canadians are not spending hours debating this.
No, the Canadians have lives.
Well,
We
Canadian, I think,
don't, because we're talking about this and the
here's
new
what I think
TikTok
it is.
dance.
We have lives too. They just look different. I think what they have is still manners. Like you're raised, you don't slap people in the grocery store. You don't yell at strangers. You don't carry a gun on your hip to go grocery shopping. Here, it's been normalized. So all of this, I think, is just an extension of that bravado. And men who have been told from the highest places in the land that they own women now, that they may do as they wish and get away with it, and that women are simply instruments, receptacles, if you will, of their pleasure, and that's about it.
Well, there are certain men. I mean, I want to keep jumping in on this because this is certain men, and I do think no matter what the rage, no matter what the whatever it is an entitlement. I was at a party the other night, and a man said he's doing all this work against Bruce Springsteen because he said he went to a Bruce concert and Bruce was voicing his political views. And this guy just walked up to me at this party and starts telling me all of this. And he said, "You do radio stuff, right? Well, I want to get all of this on the air." And I said, "Well, after all these years, you don't know where Bruce stands in the political realm?" And he said, "Well, I didn't. I liked his music, and that's why I went to the show. And if I'm paying $100, then Bruce just needs to sing his songs and shut up." Well, he's paying to see an artist be that artist, is how I explained it to him. And it is not his right nor privilege to tell the artist what to do or how to do it. But it was kind of an entitlement that he gets to demand something. And I think some men in this realm are seeing or feeling that they get to demand how women behave toward them and what they can do toward women. And the Joe Rogans and some of these talk shows of that men are the prize and women should now chase men and men should be able to treat these women any way they want to. And women are supposed to pretend they like it in some of the songs that are coming out now. I think that's where the problem lies. Not that we shouldn't love sex and love whatever and love everything that we have in the developments over the last few years and that a lot of women have fought for. But at the same time, it's these men, similar to the white supremacists, that they are entitled and privileged to have whatever they want, regardless of what the other person wants or doesn't want. That was a rant. I apologize.
It was a beautiful rant. In fact, so much so that it stimulated Ray from Los Angeles to give us a buzz at 818-985-KPFK. Those are your Harrison hotlines, 818-985-5735. Ray, you're on Unzipped. Welcome. Hello, Ray.
Yes, am I on the air?
You are on the air. Flap, flap.
Okay, hi there, it's me again. I have an issue that changes the bear into a Prince Charming, and I would like the three girls to comment on this. I have a Yiddish proverb, and it goes like this. If you feed a horse, he won't go to the mill. Now, I interpret this as if a guy gets sex, he won't get married. And my idea on this is there's too much emphasis on marriage. Love and passion is real, human, and natural, but marriage is a legal contract. And as a result of marriage, there's a lot of ideas like premarital sex is being used and withhold sex until marriage. And that's why girls don't kiss back, by the way. And there's the guilt and the shame if you have sex. And also the development of tactics and routines. So my question for the three girls, and I hope I can get three answers, is there too much emphasis on marriage?
Thank you, Ray. I will marry the bear. And Carrie, you're a girl now.
I know. I was just waiting for my...
No, we love Ray. Ray's called in before. And I don't know that girls are still not kissing back because they want marriage. I think that's very, very outdated. But I think Ray called in once before, didn't he? Because he said he thought women were being dismissive. If I'm not mistaken, that was his call a few weeks ago. I'm not quite sure what the answer is to this because I think Ray's kind of still has Ray, if you don't mind, has a little bit of a of you from maybe the 50s. What do you three girls think?
Yeah, maybe Ray's
Yeah.
gone.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'll chime in unless Renee wants to go first.
You have a lovely voice.
I will go first and say that Ray, it does sound a little bit like maybe you're speaking from anecdotal evidence, from maybe something that happened to you at some time, and that's valid, whatever your experience has been in your social circle. But I would say that statistically in the Western world right now, that's probably not entirely true anymore. I can't speak to every individual, but I do know that many women do engage in premarital sex or have opted out. I know millennials have opted out of monogamy more than most other previous generations. I don't know if it's 18% are engaging in something other than monogamy right now of the millennial generation. And I can't speak as to not kissing back, but again, these sound like maybe personal narratives, things that have happened to you, and your response to them is totally valid. I do personally agree about the legal contract. And of course, we know that the modern view of legal marriage comes from patriarchy, it comes from property endowment and legacy for male legacy, and really more ownership. And yeah, it's not so much about love or choosing what's best for women, of course. So I think a lot of people in the Western world would be right on view there. And I think people are getting married less frequently than they have been in the Western world. So we have a third girl here, Carrie, and
Yes.
she can
Yeah.
she can offer
Yeah.
her view.
I'm a modern woman. I'm fluid, so here I am. It occurs to me this is going to come from my male side here. If I remember, there used to be something called Virgin Records. You guys probably remember that too. You used
Of
to buy
course.
something called CDs. You would take this disc, put it in a machine, and play music. And when a new one came out from a band you liked or a song you wanted, nothing could stop you from getting into Virgin Records. You would leave work. Oh, I'm sick today, whatever. And you would get in there. Same with Blockbuster. When that new movie came out, the one that just was in the theater and it's going to hit Friday afternoon, you were the first one at Blockbuster or whatever the version is of that. I think if a woman wants to kiss a man, there's probably not much that's going to stop her from doing that, except obstacles. What are those obstacles? And I think that's what we're talking about today, is there are unusual obstacles that never used to exist. Sure, there was the patriarchy. There were manners that said you couldn't, like on the first date, you couldn't do this and that. There were sort of social structures. But now we have safety structures when the social structures, you could be pretty sure that when you were driven home in the 57 Plymouth, that he wasn't going to go nuts on you because the whole neighborhood would know, the police would know, the church would know, and he would never work again. So there was a kind of social restraint. Now we're dealing with incels, that people, men that have no sex whatsoever, that live in their mom's basement and grow mushrooms. And their idea of women is purely through watching porn, where you grab and pull hair and scream and call them horrible things. And for some reason, if you meet a live one and you say that to her at a Starbucks, she doesn't react well. There must be something wrong with her, right? Okay, well, I guess that one doesn't deserve an answer. Let's go to Madeline.
I was going to say Flash was on mute. Flash was on mute, so
I am on mute.
So she might have been saying something.
Yeah, so sorry, I was, but yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I agree with everything you said. I mean, I think it's just tricky, but we do have another caller. How lovely, Madeline.
In Altadena. Madeline, you're on Unzipped. Welcome.
Hi, this is awesome. I really like your show. Yeah, maybe a bear. I, 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 like what you said about, you know, the, 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 I like what you said about Oh, I don't even know. I can't hear the phone very well. I was listening to the radio, but I have to turn off to listen to you. Yeah, it's women are human. We are human. I was in a religious. Somebody was reading old biblical stuff with your redeeming your slave. A man is 50 and a woman is 30. A boy is 20 and a girl is 10. A young boy is 10 and a girl is 5. And it's like, I think we have never gotten over that. And women are human, and we are human. We deserve respect. And yeah.
I
Well,
agree with
amen
you
to that.
completely, Madeline. And I think, I've thought this for quite some time in that if men and women, I mean, if we treated each other as two humans and
Yeah.
then, but the whole male, female, and what our roles are, it's disappeared in some areas, which is good. But in other areas, it's sometimes men still think of women as, in the dating world, as something they're going to order on Amazon. Like a product they're going to get. What are they getting? They want to see the goods. How is she going to add to their lives rather than another person? Because they wouldn't treat their buddies that way. And women sometimes do the same thing in how they talk about men. But if you treat each other like you're living in a small town, and however you treat each other in the dating world or as friends, you're going to see each other at the grocery store, at the gas station, and you can't just disappear. I talked to a kid, he's 21 the other day, and he's gay. And he said he'll sleep with somebody 3 times and then he ghosts them. And that's just how he lives right now. And I asked him why, and he said, well, it just takes too much effort, too much communication to explain that, whatever it is he's feeling like, obviously issues he hasn't worked out yet. But I think if there was more communication that way and treating someone as you would want to be treated, like you're just saying, Madeline, as another person, things might sort out better.
Thank
I
you.
have
Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. You're a rock star. Very much appreciate it. And hopefully you've set a beautiful spot on the pavement for other women to be able to jump in and speak as freely as you did. And we really appreciate your call and hope to hear from you again.
Why don't you get them to have a skill competition?
Thank you so much, Madeline. That opens up a line at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. We're going to pause for a second. When we return, we're talking about the latest study that shows if women had their choice, many women, I sound like the president, many women, like lots, like it's become a thing, if they could choose whether to be with a wild bear in the woods or a wild man whom they don't know, they think they would fare better with a bear. Survivability. Why is that? That's what we're asking you, and we'll talk to you on the other side.
IMRU presents Unzipped with Carrie Harrison. Your sex, your stories, and everything in between. IMRU presents Unzipped with Carrie Harrison, exploring the complexity of human desire and everything in between.
And it is Unzipped. Carrie Harrison with you, reminding you that we are live streaming right now on Substack and YouTube, actually on Facebook, on X, formerly known as Twitter, on really everything with a chip and a signal. You can simply Google Carrie Harrison, C-A-R-Y, like Cary Grant, and find it, enjoy it, be with it. And when you arrive at your destination, if you're listening to terrestrial radio, you can turn it off and switch to a digital stream and not miss any of the incoming calls at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. We're talking about a topic that has grown to become public discussion. In fact, so much so it was on The View. It's all over the internet. If a woman had a choice, really, for survivability and comfort, would she rather be trapped in the woods with a wild bear? Would she survive that better than a live American human male? Maybe with a gun, maybe with a bunch of Joe Rogan in his head. What are the odds of him not misbehaving? So women are picking bears. Flash brought up a second ago about her gay friend who might go on 3 or 4 dates and then it's kind of out the window. And I'll give a little insight into that because I have a little access to that side of the world.
Yes, please.
And there are bears in the gay world that are not the kind in the woods. Did you know that?
Say what now?
There are bears in the gay world that are not the kind that you find in the woods.
I did not know that.
Let me bring everyone up to speed on that. So when you're trapped in the wood, if you're a woman, you would definitely want to be trapped with a gay bear. So a bear in the gay world is an overweight, hairy guy with a beard, usually wearing a tank top, and loves to dance and is just as gentle as a lamb. They're just called bears because, gays love to, make everything elegant, no matter what it is. So you take an overweight guy and you call him a bear. He's now part of a community, and he can be an elite version in that community. In the straight world, an overweight guy in an undershirt, you guys might have a different term for that. And you might not have parties for them, but I don't know. So that's a bear, just to enjoy a little bit of reality check on all of that. Your gay friend, you're right, Flash. There is not enough communication, and there's a reason. Very much as women are now experiencing with DEI being erased, that means women are now officially erased from the federal government. Unexisted in the federal government, poof, gone, erased. Because who do you think the diversity, inclusion, who do you think that is? It starts with women. Then you throw in some trans, you throw in some of this, some of that, whatever, African Americans, just anything that checks a box called other that is not a white, heterosexual, Protestant Republican. That's other, that's now gone. So women are suffering this as they always have throughout history. But right now it's really in your face. Gays have only recently enjoyed even being allowed to get married. Now they've been erased. They're back to, do I go back in the closet? Do I commit suicide? That's pretty popular, about 30%, by the way. To just end it all. There's like no hope, no future. I mean, these are hard times. So when you've grown up disenfranchised, not a part of, but a part from the whole time, even under legal standards, under social standards. Now we have a patriarchy that dismisses women even as human, really. They're just carriers of somebody's spawn. We're all sort of sitting in the same boat. And it's really hard to try to communicate. Like if you're in the woods with this guy that we're talking about and you try to communicate, you're not going to probably talk about how afraid you are because that's going to turn him on, maybe. Isn't that part of the fear?
That we'll be talking to a man in the woods about being turned on? I'm confused.
Oh, so let's say if you communicate to this man in the woods with the topic about you would pick a bear because a bear is probably safer. If you're alone with a man in the woods whom you don't know, the first thing you're not going to probably tell him is that you're afraid of him because that would probably turn him on and make him feel powerful.
If it's the kind of man that you would be afraid of, then he would probably gaslight you. If you say, you know, I'm afraid of this situation, I'm afraid of you, well, what's wrong with you? The problem's with you, not with me. Like the guy on social media who think, oh, the problem with dating apps is that 10% of the guys get all the women. It's not. The problem with dating apps is that women are concerned and unsure and frightened of men right now. And especially on dating apps, of what you're getting and the effort it's going to have to be put in, and the facade that can be put up in the beginning, and all of that. I mean, at a certain point, you know, we're like, because when we get ready for a date with a man, generally speaking, we're thinking about, oh, what are we going to wear? Should we put on makeup or not? Where are we going to meet? Do I have to do my hair? I mean, at the end of the day, especially from somebody who does have anxiety, like I have anxiety and no attention span, it's just sometimes just easier to turn on Netflix and grab a bottle of scotch than go through all of that. You know, it's not only not the man that was on the dating site or the person he pretended to be or might pretend to be for the first 3 dates, but, you know, just something you're gonna have to get out of or get your heart broken from with all the games and whatever, and that's too exhausting right now. We're just trying to find, you know, cheap gas to put in our cars, hope it keeps running, keep a roof over our head, but we all still want love. And we all still want attention. Now, how much of that is sold to us as a bill of goods, to me, is questionable right now, because love is a drug, and love gives you all that rush of cortisol and all the love drugs that our body and our mind create, just like shopping does, just like the drugs that, you know, a lot of people take, Molly, just like getting drunk and being free, all of that does. And all of the things that we're sold in our society right now that do stimulate that, I wonder how much we really need it, because I think we still believe that we need that feeling. And if we didn't need that feeling, how many things would we stop buying, and would we stop buying into, to be attractive to the people we want to be attractive to, and to make ourselves look good in many ways for others? How much of that would we stop buying into? But it's, you know, there's so much going on, and there's so much to, if I may use the cliche term, unpack in all of this. But the bear thing, like, either the bear's gonna eat you or it's not gonna eat you. And I think a lot of women like that simplicity, rather than who is this man going to pretend to be, or want to dominate, or want to gaslight, or confuse, or get whatever he wants, or fool with us in some way. And I'm sorry, men, I know you're not all like that, but there are many who are, and some are very misogynistic and just think women deserve it because they don't think of women like other people. They might think of them as inferior, or something to own, or something to scare. So I think, to get back in a very long way around the barn, Carrie, to your question is, yeah, I mean, I think there is, if you tell a man that you're frightened of the situation, a well-developed man, a man that you would want to be with, might take 2 steps back, sit down, say, "That's not what I want here. I'm sorry if I'm making you feel that way. How do we change this up? How do I make you feel comfortable?" Rather than just saying, "Well, it's obviously your fault. You're doing something wrong."
So here's the magical question in all of this. How do we have a bifurcated maleness culture in America where, and we know that it's not all men. We know it's probably not a lot of men. We know it's enough men, and those enough men are the irritants that stick out on the internet and give normal men a very bad name. Normal men, you know, politics is like a pyramid. A third at the top are the enlightened, educated ones. The third in the middle are They watch Netflix, they eat, they go bowling. They don't really get involved. The ones in the bottom are the lunatic fringe, which are just as passionate as the ones in the top. But the ones in the middle act as a buffer and keep a lot of movement from actually happening. The ones at the bottom, which would be these guys that have caused the bear issue, they're so loud, they're so obstreperous and generally unpleasant that we start to think that all men on the internet are like that. What would the ideal man look like on the internet for those who are listening passively and go, okay, I could use that information from a woman? What is it she's looking for?
Yeah, I would love to hear from people too. If you're a listener and if you're going out on dates, or if you're dating, or if you are still looking, if you haven't just, hung up the raincoat, so to speak, what are you looking for in someone else online? It's a very good question. I also is a topic I wanted to bring up today, and I know this is a huge challenge, but you might not have guessed this by listening to me, but I have no idea how to flirt. And it's a problem in person, in online. I can have a conversation about just about anything, I think. But honestly, I have no idea how to flirt. I don't know how to do it, and it's something I've just never learned. And I think it is an art and a skill. And one time a girlfriend had told me what to say, because I would turn anybody off who clicked on me on the dating sites, because I would just talk to them like they were another person. And she said, if somebody said, oh, well, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, well, I'm trying to get through this book that I started last week, and my goal is to get through it by the weekend. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear something exciting or sexual. And if somebody says, oh, tell me something I would know about you that I wouldn't know from your profile. And I would say, well, I can swim 20 laps in the pool. No, nobody wants to hear that. They would all just swipe me off if I said something like that. And my girlfriend said, when they said, tell me something that I wouldn't know about you from your profile, she said, say, my knees are ticklish. Worked like a charm. So do we have to, is that flirting? Do we have to dumb it down to where nobody's, ooh, my knees are ticklish?
Well, that
Yeah.
wouldn't work for me. So
No.
I'm not
How do you
tribal.
flirt?
I'm not the average bear. I'm sapiosexual too. In
Yeah.
other words, smart people turn me on. If it's in a great body, you're fit and you're smart, oh my God. Then it's easy to be charming. You just be yourself. You just, if they're witty and clever, you don't upstage them now. That's the key. But just try to sort of meet it equally, and you'll sort of find a little bit of a rhythm. But smart is key, because when you're making out, it may be lovely, it may be beautiful, it may be hot, you may get wildly turned on. But if there's no content there, you're not going to have a second date. And you're certainly not going to take them home to your mother, male or female. As a female taking home on anybody, as a male taking home on anybody. So I think content is key. And, there was an era in the 1950s, I think, was his name Dale Carnegie, and he taught personality courses, which was similar to my monologue in the middle, where there's entire billion-dollar enterprises in how to talk to women, as if people don't know how to do that, as if women have not been saying forever, here's how you talk to me. How about listening for 3 minutes? Basic stuff. This is not a mystery, but there is an industry in how to have a personality. If you don't have one, purchasing one, you're not going to get it. You either have it or you don't. I don't think you can buy a personality.
Well, but doesn't that go back to what Madeline was saying, in that if men want to know how to talk to women, I see them, how they talk to each other. Mostly I've worked with men. If I do go out for cocktails or something, I see how men talk to each other. They say something about whatever it is, baseball or music or whatever, but they want to hear what their mate's saying. They'll listen. They'll debate music. They'll listen if they're talking about a relationship or something. But with women, they don't, because I think they think she's going to be more attracted to them if they dominate. And that's not the case. I don't think we want to be dominated. I'm one of those women that I'm a little old-fashioned in this way, that I do love a man to open the door for me. I do love if he puts his arm around me or holds my hand when we're walking through a crowd. These are just things that I like. Are they mandatory for me to live my life and get on? Absolutely not. But I like those things, and not everybody does. But just in talking to a woman, just, talk to her as if, I don't know why I have to say this, as if like you have to pretend you're interested in what she has to say as well, but you don't need to dominate. We're strong enough to where if you let us know you're interested and we want you, we will let you know. You don't have to tackle us with it.
Do you think some of this, Flash, is self-esteem with some women? Some women just are very careful and cautious and don't want to put too much forward, fear of rejection, fear of this, fear of that. Maybe they're not sure if their perfume is good. I mean, seriously, everyone has bugaboos. If you're in LA, maybe you have a wrinkle, maybe you should get more Botox, maybe they're going to reject you. I mean, there's a million layers of what freaks people out. But generally, if people have fairly good self-esteem, which is earned, some people are lucky, had loving parents, had great support systems, have good self-esteem. I think most of us probably didn't. And we have to earn it, and we have to go to shrinks, and we have to recover, and we have to get well. And then we start to carry that. And with that, I think it's attractive. When you're with someone who knows who they are, who stands for what they stand for, and can defend themselves and is not going to hurt you, that probably feels pretty solid. But I think men with lower self-esteem, we could look maybe to Washington, D.C. We see a bunch of them. They're brutal. And that can't feel attractive to a woman, or can it?
Well, not to this woman. No. But I think there's, again, going back to this party that I was just at, there were men who were flirting with me, men who let me know they were interested. And then I felt like in order to get out of that, I had to say something more than I'm not interested or no, because that's unacceptable. It seems in this culture. And these are, folks in Hollywood, in Los Angeles. They're not, they're smart, they're creative, but they would take it personally. There's a lot of interactive things going on all at the same time. But there's a lot of, if they were talking to another man and he said, hey, do you want to go play golf or something next week? And they goes, no, I don't really feel like it. They'd go, all right. There wouldn't be all this stuff around it. Oh, she's rejecting me, she's a bitch, or there's something more that has to be made of it. And because I think there's still this underlying, it's hard for us all. I don't know how direct I could be with someone. I was with someone the other day and he got a text in the middle of a concert, and the text said, I'm very much in the mood right now. I could never send a text like that. I'm much too much of an introvert and shy to send that. But I thought, oh, that's how that's done. And he was ready to go. James pulled the car around. But there are men who also I got into, because I will get in debates with people, a man who was telling another man right in front of me about how you need to treat brunettes in a certain way as opposed to blondes. And I thought, how many men have ever thought that women never refer to men as brunettes or blondes or redheads? If someone says, oh, did you meet a man the other day? And she says, yes. The first thing out of her mouth is not, is he brunette or blonde? We as women are not our hair colors. Hair color is interchangeable. Some of us are born with a certain color, but I am not a blonde or a brunette or a redhead. I am a human. I am a woman. I have hair color. But I think it's very much still putting women in a box in that way that we don't with men. Now, some women have other boxes. was just talking to a
So to
woman who would
speak.
never date a short man, but she's about to marry one. So there you go.
There was a recent study. By the way, this is not a podcast. Carrie Harrison with you. This is Unzipped, part of the IMRU family, the longest running LGBT show. It has a long tradition of that, over 35, maybe 40 years now. This is a special edition that we're doing every week. We're test flying it for a month or so to talk about real live human things and do it live and get your feedback and involve all of us who are stuck in this dystopian era, wanting and needing to connect. So we're exploring better ways to be able to do that and looking at some of the obstacles we're all facing. I'm joined by Flash, who is a radio veteran and a world traveler, along with Renee, daughter of Simone. And we're in different parts of the country right now, which is kind of cool. I'm actually in Mexico City, Mexico, and how cool that we can do that. And talk about everything. We've got the phones open. I think we do have a line available at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. And it looks like we've sort of centered on the how to talk to women as a topic. It's not a mystery. It's never been a mystery. It's never been a secret. If you've ever read Jane Austen, if you've ever watched an old Hollywood movie, it's all in there laid out, yet somehow blind to hundreds of millions, seemingly, different men, they have no idea, or at least from the women's perspective, of how to talk to them. Let's jump to Matt. He's on line 4. Matt, you're on Unzipped. Welcome.
Hello,
Matt.
I could barely hear you, but I guess I'm on right now. Yeah, I just wanted to comment real quick. I'm not an online guy, and I think it's kind of weird, but I know some people that it's worked out for. But some of the descriptions of the co-host earlier, sorry I tuned in late, I'm not sure what your name is, about how men describe women as blonde or this or that. I mean, you missed an adjective, Neanderthal men. There's a lot of dudes who I've never heard anybody start to describe somebody they met like that. It's a lot more about the content. I'm not sure of what the demographic or the intellectual capacity or how it works online, but it's there's a lot of men who don't talk as if they're some jocks at a sports bar.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you, Matt. That's why I've said a few times, some men. And, I think it's changing, but it is something that I hear quite often. And I'm friends with people from 21 up to 70. And some men still do that. There are many men who still refer to women as chicks. I'm friends with them too.
Yes,
it's hard to.
Yes, it is. It is. Unfortunately, it's still a misogynistic and racist country we live in.
So true. Are you married?
Not at the moment.
Have you been married?
Yeah.
How many times?
Yes.
How many times have you been married?
A long time ago.
A long time. Okay, just once.
Several
Okay.
years
And are
ago.
you dating, Matt?
What?
Are you dating?
No, not right now. No.
You're just taking a break?
I guess you could say that.
Or are you done with it? Oh. Did he hang up on me?
Who's to say?
I think that was enough of the questioning.
I don't think he did, but
yeah.
Either way, it looks like we're up against the wall. Thank you so much. Wow. So wonderful to hang out with you, Flash. And we covered a lot of territory. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you. This was fun.
Bye, you guys.
IMRU presents Unzipped with Carrie Harrison, exploring the complexity of human desire and everything in between.